And now, aviation weather around Alaska. Hello, I'm National Weather Service meteorologist Peter Chan with your Alaska aviation weather outlook for Friday and into Saturday. Starting off this Thursday, we do have some active weather areas of the southwest coast under blizzard warnings. Those are going to be through at least about mid-morning on Friday, but that active weather will be pushing inland during the day on Friday. We'll have an area of low pressure tracking from near St. Matthew Island on over toward the lower Yukon coast, and as a result, this frontal system will push further inland and eastward by later in the day Friday. As we take a look starting out early Friday morning, along coastal areas, a band of precipitation, along with some strong gusty winds creating blizzard conditions here, especially along the southwest coast and a little bit inland as well. That'll spread quickly to the north and east, a widespread area of IFR conditions from the northwestern Gulf, Cook Inlet, across southwest interior and including areas of the Alaska Range. We find conditions do improve along portions of the Panhandle, going from the IFR earlier to VFR, especially along the outer Gulf Coast areas of the Panhandle. Pockets of IFR here in the north slope south of Utqiagvik, and then IFR across St. Lawrence Island. By Saturday, as that frontal system and moisture lifts further north and eastward, and we find IFR conditions northern Panhandle, northeastern Gulf Coast, up through the middle upper Yukon River Valley, as well as the southeast slopes of the Brooks Range. IFR continuing across areas of the southwest, especially there west of the Alaska Range. And as we go through Saturday, there's going to be another low lift up out of the North Pacific that'll be crossing the Aleutians, the eastern Aleutians, and that's going to become the next weather maker for late Saturday into Sunday. So Saturday morning, or afternoon rather, we'll find that low approaching Kuskokwim Bay. That low is going to pull back up across the Yukon Delta, and then another frontal system is going to be arching ahead of it and pushing north and eastward. So we find widespread IFR conditions along the Gulf Coast, northern half of the Panhandle, back in through areas of the southwest around Iliamna, down through Dillingham. So this will be the next push of moisture and winds and things, and as we go into Sunday, that will spread a little further north and eastward as well. But past conditions for Friday, we expect IFR early Friday giving way to VFR Friday afternoon at Anatuvik, as well as at Adigan Pass. IFR early, VFR as we go into the afternoon. Lake Clark and Merrill will see conditions rapidly deteriorate. Early Friday morning, VFR, but rapidly becoming IFR as the strong front pushes northeastward, and it's going to have a lot of moisture, lower ceilings, precipitation, strong gusty winds. Same thing, Rainy Pass, VFR very early Friday, but quickly becoming IFR, especially for the afternoon and evening. Windy Pass, VFR will also become IFR, maybe just a little delay, just simply because further eastward. Same thing, Isabel Pass, VFR in the morning, quickly though becoming IFR as we go through the afternoon and certainly by evening. Farther east, Mentasta should largely, at least in the shorter term, escape that with VFR conditions much of the day, though MVFR conditions will exist further south across the Copper River Basin. Tanita Pass will also see VFR early in the day, Friday morning, give way to IFR, especially mid-late afternoon, as that system, that frontal system, approaches from the southwest. Portage Pass, VFR, again, Friday morning, but becoming IFR, and conditions deteriorating there rapidly as we go through the afternoon and certainly by evening. Chilkoot and White will remain IFR much of the time on Friday. That's anticipated. And looking at freezing levels, because we have the low that's back out here in the central Bering right now, at least on Thursday, by Friday morning, that low is going to be near St. Matthew and then passing just north of Nunavik Island into the lower Yukon Delta as we get into late Friday and on Saturday. And that's going to, ahead of it, here's the frontal system, so we see the freezing levels aloft bump upwards 2, 4, 6,000 feet. So there's warmer air aloft coming in to the southwest. That's associated with the front. That's what's producing the areas of snow, blowing snow with the stronger winds along the frontal system, and all that's heading northeastward and eastward into the Gulf as we go through the day on Friday. So as a result, we expect the icing potential to be greatest along and ahead of that frontal system. And so for Friday morning, early on, along the southwest coast, lower Yukon Delta, and here in the northern portion of the Alaska Peninsula, Kodiak Island. But then this is going to advance northeast and northward during the day on Friday, all the way up to the central Alaska range, approaching the Copper River, certainly overspreading Cook Inlet, the Kenai Peninsula, Matsu Valley. So look for deteriorating conditions and the threat of icing increasing as we go through Friday afternoon and certainly by evening. Could be lingering areas of moderate icing over the southern and interior parts of the Panhandle, inner channels there, above 5,000 feet on Friday. So here comes the next piece of energy. Up at the jet stream level, 30,000 feet, we have area of low pressure, broad area of low pressure over the Bering Sea. Ahead of it, this jet core of upwards of 140 knots from the southwest, just south of the eastern Aleutians and Alaska Peninsula, ridging over into the Gulf, but that's not very strong, weak ridging. And as we get down to 700 millibars, 9,000 feet, we can see this core of winds anywhere from 40 to as high as 50, 60 knots here in through areas of the southwest with some ridging still out over the Gulf at mid-levels. And then if we look out back into Canada, coming into Vancouver, British Columbia, 75 knot core of winds there along the British Columbia coast. Now at 3,000 feet, we have low circulation here on Friday that's located again just out toward the southwest of St. Matthew. The surface low itself is going to be taking a track like this during the day. And so we do have a belt of stronger winds, upwards of 50, 55 knots. Pushing in, though, we find some winds into the southwest interior, 40 to as high as 50 knots, vicinity of Bethel. So as a result, Friday, the greatest threat for turbulence will be across areas of the southwest coast, extending all the way up north of the Yukon River, Seward Peninsula. Moderate turbulence possible back toward St. Lawrence Island and Nunavik Island, extending down along the Alaska Peninsula, surface to 3,000, surface to 4,000 feet, potential for moderate turbulence, especially eastern Aleutians up through the Alaska Peninsula. We also find some potential for moderate turbulence along areas of the Panhandle, inner channels, and the west-southwest coasts between surface and 4,000, surface to 6,000 feet. So again, fair amount of turbulence showing up along the west and southwest side of the state as well as over toward the Panhandle.